What up? It's Mr. Clean, here to teach you how to clean your toilet, because after you figure out how to eat to build muscle, you're going to be blowing that thing up. So it's needed. Number one, first things first, we're talking about energy, carbohydrates. So if you are a non-diabetic or pre-diabetic person, it's the easiest way to get energy. Processing carbs, it's the easiest energy pathway for your body. And we want to replenish our glycogen stores because typically to put on mass, you're going to be doing some high volume training because historically the research has shown that total volume of weight moved correlates with volume of muscle mass gained. So typically we're going to be doing some high volume training as far as total weight moved. So the numbers are this: 5 to 6 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight per day is enough. Now, 8 to 12 grams per kilogram per day is optimal for maintaining glycogen stores and hypertrophy. So this is kind of where it gets tough, because that 8 to 12 grams per kilogram per day, if you actually do the math on that, is so many carbs, it's insane. It's a ton. And some of this is going to be more for performance, right? So this is for replenishing glycogen stores of people who are doing high volume training. And I'm saying high volume as in like running marathons, doing triathlons, doing an Ironman competition. So the evidence is that 5 to 6 grams per kilogram per day is enough for a bodybuilder, somebody trying to build muscle mass. So I would stick to that. If you really, really are just wanting to be in a mega calorie surplus, you can be, and you'll always feel strong every day because you'll always have energy, but you might get a little fluffy. You can go to the 8 to 12. I would stick 5 to 6. And if you speak freedom units, that's 2.27 to 2.72 grams per pound per day, which if you go right in the middle at 2.5, and you weigh 100 pounds, that's 250 grams of carbs. 250 grams times 4 calories, that's 1,000 calories from carbs per day for a 100-pound person. You could see how this can kind of get out of hand quickly if you move into the 8 to 12 grams per kilogram per day. They did a study in 2021 that a keto/low carb diet may blunt hypertrophic responses. Now, it needs corroboration in a larger sample size. They didn't test enough people, in my opinion, but what they showed was that the people who were on the keto diet had decreased fat mass compared to the Western diet, but the Western diet had increased muscle mass, whereas the ketogenic diet had not. So the people on keto were losing fat, the people on the Western diet were building muscle. So if your goal is to build muscle, typically you're going to need some carbohydrate intake. We're going to talk about protein timing, and the anabolic window is fake. Like if you're trying to slam your shake immediately post-workout because all your gains are going to disappear, otherwise it's BS. It's bro science. It's been around forever and it's stupid, right? Just like people tell you that the way the wind blows on the Tuesday of the second month of the third lunar new year determines what gender your baby's going to be. It's BS. Okay? A pretty recent study in 2020, they studied nearly 3,000 people, had them all do resistance training. They messed with protein timing, intake, different things like that. There was no difference in muscle protein synthesis and hypertrophy between the different timing groups, right? There is a caveat. Muscle protein synthesis, so your body taking in protein and turning it into muscle, right? Pretty simple, goes in waves. And it's typically fed and fasted, and I'll have the waves on the next page. But essentially, you should be eating protein every 3 to 4 hours to build muscle. So in theory, if your last meal was 4 hours ago and you just finished a workout, you need to eat protein right now. But that 30 minutes post-workout is not where all the gains are. When you do resistance training, you elevate your body's ability to synthesize protein into muscle for up to 48 hours, right? Your body's not stupid, right? They're smart. It's smarter than you are. We've figured out and adapted over time. Like if you're doing resistance training with enough stimulus, your body's going to be trying to rebuild muscle for 2 days after that. So not getting your shake in, within 10 minutes of your workout is not going to kill your gains. What it will do, though, is if I eat immediately post-workout, then I can start the timer for my next meal 3 to 4 hours from then. If it takes me, as you can see down below, more than 2 hours post-workout to eat, most likely my workout took me an hour. You're thinking about drive time and stuff like that. You start to creep up on 3, 4, 5 hours since you've eaten last. Now you're behind a meal, which means you're behind about, 30 grams, maybe 40 grams of protein. If you're behind like that for a long enough period of time, like if you're chronically behind on that, missing one meal per day extrapolated over a year, you're going to miss out on a large percentage of your potential muscle gain. So the point is, you are awake about 18 hours a day, so you should be eating 5 to 6 meals with high quality protein. Pre-workout protein is also a good option, and has shown the potential for robust muscle protein synthesis increase. And post-workout, it just needs to be within the first 2 hours. I told you I was going to show you the muscle protein synthesis wave, so here it is. The smaller dotted line is you without, think of it as you without resistance training, right? So this solid black line moving up and down is muscle protein synthesis. So when it spikes up, you're synthesizing protein into muscle. When it drops down and it valleys, that's muscle breakdown. When you work out, those peaks get higher, right? So say you just did a really hard resistance training session, a really hard lifting day, those peaks where it says greater muscle protein synthesis in the fed state following resistance exercise, those peaks are going to peak a little bit higher for the next 48 hours. That's what I was just talking about on the last slide. So you're going to build more muscle for the next 4 to 8 hours. And I bet you can't guess how much time is between those peaks. About 2.5 to 4 hours, depending on the person, which is why we say to eat protein every 3 to 4 hours. So you're constantly feeding yourself when your body is telling you it's time to build muscle. So how much protein do you actually need? Old recommendations are out. 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight, 1 gram per kilogram of body weight per day. It's not enough. New recommendations, modern, American College of Sports Medicine says 1.2 to 1.7 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. So if you're 150 pounds across 5 meals at 1.7 grams per kilogram, you need 23 grams a meal. Here's where it gets interesting. If you're 220 pounds across those same 5 meals, you need 34 grams per meal. Old science said that 20 to 25 grams was all you could process in a single meal. Cap. New science says that's wrong and the type of protein matters. So actually eating your protein, like chicken, steak, shrimp, fish, things like that, the type of protein matters, and having to actually chew and digest. But also larger people can process larger amounts of protein. It makes sense, but the old science said that anything beyond 25 was just being turned into energy or uric acid or poop or whatever, right? It's not true. And then one last tip is pre-sleep protein, 30 to 40 grams. One study actually said if you don't hit 40 grams, it's not enough and you won't get the benefits. But 30 to 40 grams of protein pre-sleep has shown a robust increase in muscle protein synthesis if you did resistance training, right? So if you lifted weights within the last 48 hours, you doing that protein before sleep, you can see a boost in muscle protein synthesis. Don't do carbs. Carbs pre-sleep have been shown to decrease the amount of growth hormone secreted during sleep, which we do not want. That's having the opposite effect of what we want. So let's break it down. I'll give you some simple things to remember since we kind of went over a lot. 1, 5 to 6 grams of carbs per kilogram of body weight per day. Eat 5 to 6 times, right? Get your protein 5 to 6 times throughout the day, about 3 to 4 hours between feedings. Make sure that you are getting 1.2 to 1.7 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, right? Get your sleep, and you should be good to go to build muscle, right? So 5 to 6 carbs, 1.2 to 1.7 protein. Eat every 3 to 4 hours. You're gravy. Make sure you're lifting weights. I have a marker this time. Bye.